thedorkiestdad.
What's up, YouTube? Dorky Dad. We need to talk about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Mostly I'm just getting this video out there so it hits the algorithm because it's like going crazy right now and I'm just trying to get views. But I'm going to be brutally honest. I am a Zelda fan. I have been for I don't know, a very long time. It's actually the third NES game that I ever owned was The Legend of Zelda. Gold cartridge and everything back in 91, I think I got it. 92, I was 6, 7. Somewhere along there when I got the game, and I played it for hours and hours and hours, and it was amazing. It was my childhood, and everything since then has grown and grown and grown. But you don't care about my personal history. I feel like every time I go to make a video about something current, I end up talking about myself and my past, and nobody cares. So I'm sorry. Skip forward, do what you gotta do. But the point I need to get to is Breath of the Wild. It has, for the last 3 days, been consuming most of my life. I'm sorry, wife. I'm sorry, kids. The new Zelda's out. And if you have been living under a rock for the last week and a half, however, Friday, whatever Friday was. If you've been living under a rock, this is one of the, I believe it right now it's the, this is the second highest rated game, second highest number of perfect scores a game has ever gotten or something like that as of today. It's a great game and it's being recognized by everybody. So if you have been living under a rock, stop. I mean, at least log into Twitch and watch any of the 30,000 people that are streaming it right now. But as I said, I'm a huge Zelda fan. I have been since the beginning. And I feel that's why I have to be a little more brutally honest with this one. I know it's getting all these perfect scores, and a lot of them are unmerited. And this isn't going to be one of those, like, joke reviews where it's like, oh, there was a dog and I couldn't pet it, literally unplayable. It's not like that. And the game is fantastic. It's easily 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. But I do want to talk about where the game does fall short. And there are very, very few shortcomings. I know that sounds a little contradictory, but the problem is all these perfect scores that the game is getting, it's receiving for adding things to the Zelda franchise. It's not receiving them based on its standalone merit as a video game. Now, don't get me wrong, every edition has been great. The weapons have been great. The fact that you no longer have one sword until you get the Master Sword, and then it's Master Sword till the end of the game. I'm sure that once I get the Master Sword, it will be in the end of the game. I haven't finished the game yet, so this review is not based on finishing the game. This is based on what I've played so far, and like I said, 3 days, this game has totally consumed my life, and I still haven't gone through it. I still haven't done much of the story at all. I'm wandering, I'm enjoying, I'm taking in all of the new features, but that brings me back to where I was. All of these new features, while they do make a great addition to the Zelda franchise, they are features that have been standard in mediocre action RPGs for the past decade. So all these reviewers giving Zelda a perfect 10 out of 10, 100%, everything for what Zelda gets right is what's been par for the course for every other platform. And I'm not saying that to hate on Nintendo, and I'm definitely not saying it to hate on Zelda, because, I mean, even this shelf, on my nerd shelf, is dedicated to Zelda stuff, and you can see there's quite a bit just on that little tiny square foot of space. So I am not hating on Zelda or what it's doing. I am welcoming all of these new changes, all of the new features. It just doesn't seem like it makes for a perfect game. Skyward Sword got a lot of good reviews for its innovation at the time, but it was almost completely motion control, and it ended up feeling more like a gimmick than a game mechanic. And I'm not saying that that's what this is. This is what Zelda probably should have been for the past 3 generations of Zelda games. So while this does make for a great game, it's not really perfect. It's by no means a 10 out of 10. And I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for saying that, but it's one of those things where something that's doing what it's supposed to is not exceptional. It's almost like a participation trophy. Reviewers all over are giving Zelda points for doing what it should have been doing, which is great. Maybe it'll encourage it. Maybe the future of Zelda games will continue this path. Maybe the next handheld will have new and exciting features that aren't just... Don't get me wrong, I loved A Link Between Worlds, But it was a Link to the Past with different dungeons, and the fact that you could get all your items up front instead of fighting them in the dungeons. The map, everything, there was no innovation except for the 2D part, and that didn't add a whole lot of innovation on a platform that's dedicated to 3D. I'm going to throw in clips. I spent about an hour and a half recording just so you could get an idea of the scope of this game. I don't think I'm going to add too many spoilers. There's not really a lot of spoilery stuff that I did because, like I said, I've been playing for hours on hours, and I've mostly just been exploring. I've been enjoying the mechanics. It is a great game. It is amazing. The breadth, the scope. It's worth every penny that I paid for it, and then some. Don't tell my wife that because she's going to get upset if she knows I'm willing to pay more for it. And if Nintendo hears that anybody was willing to pay more, then $75 games all year long. Not the point. The point of this is the review. So the new mechanics include climbing, which, while it's great, and I'm going to throw in a lot of different scenes here, the climbing is a nice feature, but it's reached the point where I've learned that you can pretty much Spider-Man anything in Hyrule and not have to worry about taking the path that is offered to you. I'm going to show some of that. A lot of what I've been doing, because I found the horse, I got a horse. I actually have two now, and I'll throw that clip in there too because the second one was not easy to get. But I've got a horse, but it's kind of stabled, and it's staying in the stable for a while, and the reason for that is because you can turn Link into Spider-Man and traverse all of Hyrule. I accidentally stumbled onto a tower in an area that I haven't even supposed to be into yet because I was Spider-Manning over some hills and mountains. But while the tower system is an innovative addition to the Zelda franchise, it is nothing new in video games at all. It almost makes it feel more like Far Cry than like Zelda. Because it's a simple, and just like Far Cry, and I wish I had gotten this earlier, but one of the third tower, I don't know, one of the towers that I went to was actually covered in thorns, and it really had a feeling like in Far Cry when you've gotten a little bit further in the game, and it's still, you got to get up that radio antenna, but because they ran out of ideas, now certain parts of it are falling apart and blocked off to your path. That's what it almost felt like. The one that I did, and it's probably going to be playing over me talking right now, instead of adding a new and innovative way to climb the tower, find a way around it, is basically enemy gated. One of them had what I'm hoping is a sub-boss, because if it becomes a regular enemy further in the game, it was almost impossible because you can't get up close to it and melee it. If you're out of arrows, it sucks because it was all lightning, and whatever this dude is, he sucked. Another one was just surrounded by the lizard guys, Liz. I know I'm sitting here harping on how much of a Zelda fan I am, and the lizard dudes have been in it since the very beginning, and but whatever. I'm losing dork cred here. But it's just surrounded by those guys and the Hoboclin, the Hoboclin. Surrounded by enemies, and that's supposed to make it harder, but as I'm going to show here, I ended up getting in a fight with a few of them, but I just Spider-Man'd my way around the rest, which again adds a nice element. Stealth is another element that's added, but it's taking from, you could literally stealth through the whole game if you really wanted. Well, I'm assuming the parts now. Once I get further into shrines and dungeons and that sort of thing, probably not going to be as much stealth ability, but right now most enemies can be avoided by either Spider-Manning over them or stealthing behind them. Which brings me to the shrines. The shrines are another neat trick. Instead of having 8 massive dungeons with several puzzles in each one, you get into a shrine, and the shrine is essentially 1, maybe 2 quick puzzles to get you moving and get you more acquainted with the controls. This may lead further in the story into more dungeon crawling like, because again, I've been avoiding spoilers. So if I've watched a few Twitch streamers here and there at work, whatever, at work, just watched a few Twitch streamers, but I make sure that they're not further than me and they're not doing anything crazy. So I don't know, because I've been avoiding these spoilers, I don't know what the story holds. There may be massive dungeons. There might be 8 full dungeons, and all these little shrines might just be leading up to that, in which case this game would be even more massive than originally thought. But again, that brings us into territory of why haven't these open world Zelda games been doing this? Because Zelda was the first open world game, like ever. It was the first, you're dropped into this world, you can travel to every corner of the map, you can do what you want. But for it being the creator of this entire genre of games that we've grown and evolved into what we have today, it just really feels like this is all stuff that's been lacking from this franchise for the last few iterations of the game. Like I said, they're all welcome, they're all fantastic, but that brings it up to the level it should be at, and not anywhere near perfect score level that I'm seeing. Now, I may come back and there may be another video titled "I'm So Sorry, Zelda," or, Zelda franchise, Link, whatever, in, a few days, in a few weeks, in a few months, however long it takes me to get through the expanse of this game, and I may be like, I was so wrong, everything is amazing. But brutally honest, in the time that I've had with it, while every edition has been phenomenally implemented, it has been done the way it should have been, it is all a very great experience in the Zelda universe. Nothing so far has been super innovative. It's all been standard par for the course editions that are new to this franchise. And maybe I'm spoiled by the fact that I've been playing a lot of action-based RPGs and things like that over the last 5-10 years. Maybe those have set my expectations way higher than they should be, and I've been looking for the nostalgia trip every time I pick up a Zelda game, and I'm like, oh, let's collect heart containers and beat 8 bosses in dungeons. Maybe it's on me. Maybe I set my expectations too high reading all these reviews. It could very well be. But as you can see in all the videos that I'm showing over this and the clips and everything, I'm having fun. I'm enjoying the game. It's awesome. It's a solid 8. It's easily an 8, a high 8, maybe even a 9. But no, I'm going to back off of that. Not quite a 9. It's easily an 8, high 8 area. But it is not not yet, not that I'm seeing, deserving of these perfect scores that it's been getting. The weapon system, while I am enjoying it, it is entirely too fragile. And I'm going to show that in a lot of the clips that I'm showing. You'll see there's one where I pick up a weapon, and literally, after I pick it up, I walk to the next enemy and it's broken before I defeat them. So while I understand that adds the whole, oh yes, have a lot of variety, use your surroundings, that sort of thing, and I'm not expecting, if they want to do damage system for weapons, by all means, damage system for weapons. I was a hoarder in Skyrim, so I had, in my little house, my cubby, I had, every weapon ever that looked cool. Obviously, I'm just throwing away, standard long swords and broadswords, but every weapon that I liked that caught my eye, it ended up in a hoard, in a stash somewhere. Even if I never came back, I always go in my little house in Skyrim, oh, it's all my stuff. I was a hoarder in the game. So maybe that's, again, mental something up here. Could be my fault, could be my mental hang-up. But the weapon system, great system, not quite where it needs to be on an implementation scale. And like I said, it's a Zelda game, so once the Master Sword comes around, it's probably going to be completely impenetrable. I'm going to be swinging it the entire game, so I'm maybe just moving weapon to weapon at this point, growing attached to stuff that I don't need to be attached to. We'll see. But it was a little disappointing when I'm like, oh hey, multiple weapons, and then smack, it's broken. 2 hits, 3 hits in. I understand some weapons would be a little less durable, but there doesn't seem to be a balance there that I've seen, and nothing seems to be better than any other thing. One really cool thing, and I'm actually going to run this over here while I talk about it, if you use metal weapons in a lightning storm, you will die. Terribly. Horribly. It will let you know, because your weapon will begin to generate what looks like static, or it gives off a little lightning look. It's like, hey, maybe you should stop using this. I didn't think of that when I first started doing it. I didn't put 2 and 2 together. I'm an idiot. I died. Horribly. I'm whacking away at these Liz folk. Explosion out of the sky. Smited me in my place. It was pretty rough. So, it forces you to work around that. That's the other thing about the weapon system, is you have to choose. You have to adapt. You have to choose a weapon that doesn't have any metal in it when you go against these. It's fun. It's innovative. Not quite where it needs to be implementation-wise. So, again, that's me. I could be being entirely way too brutally honest, or way too hard on this game. But I wanted to give a brutally honest review from my opinion as someone who, for 20, however many years equals my age, without, making myself sound too old here, since I was 6, 7 years old, playing the Zelda franchise every time a new one came out, getting my hands on it, running through it, loving the nostalgia trip. But I had to be brutally honest. I had to give my opinion on the latest iteration of the Zelda franchise as somebody who is familiar with it, has grown up with it, has grown alongside it, and now has access to YouTube and a social media platform to give people my unsolicited opinion. So, there's that. As always, stay dorky.